Welcome to the weekly Woodcast with Dennis and Michael Woodworth, and we have a special guest here tonight that actually is going to do something incredibly different. He's going to be the host. Nick Yorson has been a radio personality here on the South Shore with CKBW, and he's moved on in his career and moved into Halifax, but all through the years I followed Nick's career, and I wanted a person that actually had some relatability with me, knew our story. He's interviewed me many times on radio before, and we wanted to do something that's a little different, that educates people on something that's very true and dear to me, which is the Caribbean Goodwill tours that we've done for almost 10 years in both Cuba and the Dominican Republic. So I'm going to turn it over to my good friend Nick Yorson, and he's the host, and he'll probably be the only host that I can say that will be beyond me for the weekly Woodcast. So take it away, Nick.
All right. Thanks for having me here, Dennis. And as you mentioned it, no stranger to interviewing you about this subject. It's been part of my radio repertoire, I guess, since 2014. And so we're talking about the Caribbean Baseball Goodwill Tours. And, let's just go all the way back and how this got started. Let's get into it.
I've owned my own travel agency since 2010. We arrived in Veradero in 2011. I drove by a small community called Boca de Camaroca, and there was a group of kids there that were playing baseball one day on, a senior field or, a professional field. When I arrived at the hotel, I just left my bags there, told my wife that I'd be back in a little while, jumped in a taxi cab, went back to that field.
3 days later.
About 20 minutes is all it took. But what I saw was alarming. We had a group of kids that had one glove. Only 2 kids had shoes. The bat was a table leg. And the ball was a pork bone. And that was the moment I said, Dennis Woodworth, you have to do something about this.
Born to do something. Like, this is kind of what your MO is supporting people, especially baseball involved,
So I'm back at the hotel, and it just stayed with me. We were on vacation, and everybody was just, excited to be in the Caribbean, and this just stayed with me internally. And I kept thinking, how do I do something about this? What do I do? And 2 days later, a guy taps me on his shoulder in the main lobby area of the hotel, and I was wearing a Jose Bautista All-Star jersey. And this guy said, you a baseball guy? And I said, how could you tell? And he said, well, that Jose Bautista All-Star jersey is giving you away. So we started talking baseball, and he was from Vancouver. And he said that he had a team playing that week in Matanzas, which is about 45, 50 minutes away from Veradero. And I said to him, well, you must be bringing tons of donations for these kids. I just went from a place called Boca de Camaroca. They had nothing. And he's like, no, he said that it costs so much to put on the plane. And so all we basically do is just come down and play and leave a few things here and there, a glove or a bat or a ball. And I'm like, that just can't be.
It's a disservice almost,
That just can't be. So it was funny because the group I was with saw me talking to this guy, and they were saying, you could see the smoke coming from your head, Dennis. Like, just with the conversation and the animation you had, you could just see it, that it was something that you were concerned about. And I made that decision right there. I said, before I'm done, I got to do something about this. I'm making a decision right now. I'm going to figure this out. So I was a high performance coach for our provincial team that year in 2000. That was 2011, 2012. I went back again, met with government officials trying to figure this out, because I wanted it to be an official sanctioned event. I just didn't want to show up and just play baseball because they could throw you out of the country.
That's right.
Right? So I just said, I'll do some groundwork to make this happen. And it took me 2 years. Young lady by the name of Yamaisi Sosa, she worked at the hotel, connected me with a guy by the name of Barbaro Izquierdo, who was a community baseball guy just like me. No different. Speak different languages, but the love of the game was there, and you could see it.
That's right.
Spent hours with him trying to qualify him because I was putting a lot of faith in them to run this project, because I was going to come back and invite people from this province to participate in something that never happened before, and I wanted to run perfectly. So after a couple of years and building our on-ground team of people like Yosel Vasquez and Cindy Hernandez. Cindy came later, but Yosel and Yamaisi really were the first two. Barbaro and his community project leaders. So we have Bridgewater, Liverpool, the Valley, and Kentville. He kind of ran all those communities throughout the province. Mm-hmm. So the province of Matanzas is quite large, and all those communities throughout the province he oversaw to create events. So I invited two teams in 2013 to go in 2014, and we brought 15 bags of donations, which was huge for them.
What's in that in those bags? Like baseballs, gloves, bases, that sort of thing?
You know exactly what's in it. Yeah. Like catcher's gear, bases, baseballs, bats, gloves, helmets, because they don't wear helmets down there because they don't have them. So you got guys throwing 90 miles an hour with no helmets on. It was alarming. So we made the decision that we're going to bring what we would use. And a lot of my guys, and one girl, Katie Hagan, because Katie was playing on the 1300 team, which blew those guys away in Cuba, that there was a girl playing baseball, playing against the guys.
Is that the girl in Dartmouth?
Yeah, she plays for Team Canada now. Yeah. Her brother Joey was playing with me, and we had players from all over the province, right from Cape Breton to Yarmouth. And that was the first year, and it was amazing. It was life-changing and really changed the course of my life. It just did.
You mentioned life-changing. Wasn't it the year after the initial year that you had people from Cuba come here?
Yeah, and I still show that recording that you did in Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Still show it probably every couple of weeks in Cuba on YouTube.
Yeah.
The next year, we took 7 teams down to the Caribbean, all into Matanzas, and then we also invited a team to come here to Canada. The reputation in the baseball world started to go out that this guy named Dennis Woodworth was capable and connected to government officials and community project leaders in Cuba. Guys like Devon White from the Toronto Blue Jays approached me through the Blue Jay Honda Super Camps. Bill Spaceman Lee was a friend of Doug Jones out of Yarmouth, and Doug really thought that Bill, because he was in Cuba in 1999, he'd like to go revisit with us, and they were all on board. So Bill, Devo, 17s from across the country headed down, and then we raised enough money that year as a group to bring them here to Atlantic Canada that summer, which was, a dream of dreams.
Yeah.
For them. It was a dream for us. It was probably an unthinkable dream for them. They still talk about it 5 years later. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to them.
Well, yeah, because the work that goes into it, you just can't take Cubans out of Cuba.
Well, you have passports, you have visas, you have government officials on both sides that have to agree to it and sign it off. You have to be able to have the financial capability of supporting the whole group. Guys like Mike Mercier in Moncton, New Brunswick, Paul Hornerbrook from Fredericton, who became a brother of mine, was part of it. The town of Kentville came through big time on that event. It was opening night was supposed to be in Halifax, and then a week before the event, the senior team in Halifax wouldn't give us the field. So Kentville stepped up to the plate, no pun intended, and had opening night. They put it on the radio. They had an incredible crowd there that night, and we actually threw a combined no-hitter with Zach Zink and Jaden Griffin that night, which was awesome. It was awesome. And we thought when we went down, initially, we thought we'd lose by every game by 30 runs. I told all the guys mentally, we're going to get hammered. And we had a 3-1-1 record down there, and we won every game here.
Ooh, a Canadian soil, it's tough to win on, eh?
And that just shows how much baseball's grown in our country, even in this province. And it was last summer at the Canada Cup, we won gold medal. Some of those kids that were on that team were actually in Cuba in 2014. So it's been a really great story, And then in 2015, we took the first 2 girls teams ever to Matanzas. Holly Lapierre from Hammonds Plains, along with her team, Mike Crawford and a bunch of other coaches, took an all-girls team and started girls baseball, because girls baseball just didn't exist. It was girls softball. 6 provinces in Cuba have women's softball, but there's no baseball. And they have a national baseball team, but they really identify the kids and take them into the national program right away. Holly's a big supporter of female baseball. We actually host national championships almost every year here in Nova Scotia. She's been a huge leader, and they were fantastic to start that, and we've continued that annually. It's been really cool. And from there, Yvonne Stone from Pasadena, Newfoundland, took her daughter with that Nova Scotia team because she found out that they were going. And then Yvonne and her group of volunteers went the following year with their girls team, and then they brought a girls team from Cuba to Pasadena, Newfoundland.
Wow. To the Rock.
And let me tell you, when you take Cubanos that are used to 30-degree weather or hotter,
yeah,
July 1st was 6 degrees.
Balmy.
6 degrees.
And foggy, I'm sure.
Oh man. It was incredible. And Bill Lee showed up to the opening day game in a pair of shorts, Montreal Expos jersey, socks pulled up to his knees, and said, bye. He's cold over here on the Rock. And Bill's traveled with me and followed me everywhere. He's been an incredible human being, an incredible ambassador for the sport of baseball. He belongs in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, no question. He's been an incredible supporter of what we do and loves kids unconditionally.
So here we are, 2020. Obviously, things have been rolling since 2014. Get into the fundraising. How is fundraising part of this? How can people get involved with that? How can they help support the journey? Yeah.
Well, we have two components. I actually studied the Seagrams family, which is one of the biggest families in Canada. They're a multi-million-dollar corporation. The Seagrams family owns alcohol. They sell alcohol. And they also own the Montreal Expos. So back in the day when they owned the Expos, Mr. Seagram himself wanted to find a humanitarian project after he got out of the business world and retired. He wanted to focus on humanitarian work. And he talked about that it was more fulfilling to do the humanitarian work ever than it was to run his businesses. And that he could use the business to actually fund the humanitarian work. So that resonated with me. I was like, how do I figure this out? What do I do as an individual to be able to afford this? Because I'm not a multimillionaire. I live in 80 Parkdale Avenue in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. And Nick, you when you drove in the driveway, you didn't see 3 Lamborghinis and a private jet down the road that I flew you in from Halifax.
Those weren't Lamborghinis?
No, man. No, the Mazda CX-5. So, and a 2010 Volkswagen Bug that the dog owns.
Go Bo.
Bo Jackson. So I needed to be able to I own my own travel agency. I own a contracting business with Canada Post. We own a marketing company, and a boat tour business. But the agency had to have a way to fund our expenses because we travel with the teams. Nothing that we do is free down there. There's no comp rooms. There's no comp flights. We pay in our business model those expenditures. And Michael has traveled with me since he was 19 years old, every week of every month of every year. We have on-ground teams that we need to support, and I don't pay them $80,000 a year, but I pay them more than if they were working on their own down
That's
there.
Right.
I really try to show my appreciation to them, and they're skilled. There are translators that have master's degrees from the universities and deserve something for the work that they do helping us, and our umpires and our projects we try to support. So that economic model has to come from somewhere. And I don't want to charge the families extra for that. So we take it from the bookings from the agencies. So essentially, for an example, if we use Sunwing Vacations or Air Canada Vacations or Air Transat or WestJet Vacations, they have a commission structure. And I use that profitability from that to fund our expenses. Mm-hmm. That means that the teams that go really just fund their own expenses, right?
Yep.
So as a team, they order their uniforms through us. They pay for their uniforms. They have the memory books that are behind me here that they get their busing for the whole week. Their translators, their umpires, their contributions to the projects all come from their budget, right? So I kind of split it in two. And I want to make it as affordable as possible. That's why I guess we are as popular as we are, is because we're not charging, $3,000 a person to go. And we know other companies or other tour companies that do that. They just charge a lot more money and charge the same amount to everybody. So it doesn't matter if you come from LA or Boston or Texas. Yeah. We charge people based on where they live. So if you live in Vancouver or you live in Toronto or you live in, Altona, Manitoba, where a team came from, which is an hour outside of Winnipeg, who also hosted a Cuban team in their community with Kerwin Friesens and his team. If wherever you come from is where your rates come from. So we get quotes from every supplier for every location, and then we create a team budget. So it's different. Every one of them are different. We try to be as competitive as possible, and we don't want, it's like human nature. If I charge somebody, this is flat numbers, $1,400 for something, and they can buy it online for $1,200, what are they going to ask me?
Oh, I've seen it online for $1,200.
Bingo.
Can you give it to me for $1,200? Yeah.
So our mindset is always that it has to be lower than what is published online. Even if it's $5 less, it's less.
It's less, yeah. No matter which way you look at it.
And then we work with fundraising, which was the original question you had. And fundraising comes on a team basis. So the teams actually can get sponsors from their local community. It could be a car dealership. It can be an insurance company. It could be whatever the case may be. People have friends and neighbors. They can give that player $100, $200, $500 towards their trip. And then we provide an advertising receipt for them because they advertise on our memory book, our website, and no different than a radio station would, right? So we do that, and 100% of the money goes to the player. We don't take 1 cent of that. So it's allocated, and they can choose. They can buy equipment with it, right? And they can get donations, clothing, whatever they want. They can utilize those donations in whatever capacity. And we've seen, wow, I can't even. And I think Michael will do some B-roll on the video that we're doing here and showing people that the unbelievable result of this. Teams taking 10, 20, 30 bags of equipment, boxes of medical supplies and clothing, school supplies. Like we go to schools and there's 10 boxes of school supplies for the school, right? That those kids just don't have. And this is, Canada. We live in, we were here this morning with John Swain and Nick Saunders, and we said we live in one of the greatest countries in the world. We just do.
So saying all that, like, how do teams get chosen, or are they selected, or do they put like a name for it? Like this team says they want to get involved. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
Before I get to that point, I want to talk about our fundraising though. We're in COVID-19 territory, which is the most difficult time really we've had in the world that we've grown up in. Mm-hmm. I mean, we weren't part of the Spanish flu and the teens of the 1900s. So we come up with creative ways to be able to continue to support our projects. We have some really big companies in the world that sell products to everybody. Just a short time ago here in October, on the 13th and 14th of October, was Prime Day with Amazon. And of course, one of my contracting businesses was Canada Post. And I've seen the result of how many packages are ordered through Amazon. Now, I will say this. I'm a local guy. I spend literally all my money locally if I can. But there are some things in a small town or a city you can't buy. Companies like Amazon, they have everything imaginable. So training supplies for sports, Sports Check or Clee Source of Sports in our area have a limited supply of baseball stuff. It's more hockey. And it just makes sense because where we live.
Yeah.
But, we based on the sports that we promote, we have affiliate links. And those affiliate links, which we'll have in our drop-down menu here on the YouTube channel and our website and things like that, if you order a training product, whether it's a bat, a glove, a batting tee, a bow net, cheer shoes, soccer balls, whatever, that you can't get locally, if you order it through an Amazon or a Walmart or whatever the case may be, that affiliate link actually supports the initiatives that we support in both Cuba and the Dominican Republic. And we take that money and we buy equipment through our affiliate link. Now, I will say this. We have some supporters in both sports shops where we live.
Yep.
I will buy everything I can through them that they sell. But if they don't sell it, then I'll use my alternative methods. So I'm encouraging people to shop locally. But if you can't get it local, and you can use our affiliate links to help other kids in the world, and it doesn't cost you a single penny more, it makes all the sense in the world.
No pun intended again.
No pun intended. So in regards to recruiting teams, what normally happens is we have a reputation from coast to coast. So we've had teams from St. John's, Newfoundland, all the way to Vancouver, British Columbia. Mm-hmm. There's Dennis Woodworth in the baseball world. There's Derek Doucette's in the soccer world. I could name names from one coast right to Carmel Klassen, who's in Abbotsford, just outside of Abbotsford, British Columbia, which is a very cool story. A young lady by the name of Haiti Garcia, who played on the national women's softball team, went to British Columbia to play in a softball international tournament. And Julio Fernandez, who lives here in my hometown, who I met at Sobeys Fundraising, was from a place called Takaho, which is outside of Holguin. And he was discussing about taking a team down. Then we did take a team down to his hometown in 2016. And then Haiti ended up going to British Columbia that summer. And she mentioned to Carmel, why don't you bring a softball team to Cuba?
Yeah.
And that phone call came into me. So it's a lot of word of mouth and reputation, but also, television shows on ATV or CTV and global news and all that kind of stuff seems to go.
Newspaper articles,
absolutely,
all that stuff.
right?
Media, when one media outlet gets it, catches fire. Like, why aren't we covering
100%.
this? Try and find a different angle or something.
So we've had every province now. Every province has been represented, which is really cool, which is something that Michael and I and our whole team wanted to have. And what an incredible collective accomplishment. I use this analogy every week that I'm there. I was just a seed. I was the guy on that bus that drove by Boca de Camaroca and said, I need to do this. But I could not do it alone. And there's many people. There's people here in our community, Candace Calicott and many others across the country that are what I call empathetic humanitarians, right? They have empathy and they really want to help, but they don't know how. They don't know, like, how do you think about that? Like, how do we go to Cuba and help a bunch of kids in sport is a big thought. But when you know somebody that almost like could be your tour guide that's done it over and over again, you can have faith in that person and confidence that you're going to be looked after and that the job will be done. That's really my role. But these people, there are some criteria. Many of the players, and I mean, you're an athlete, so you know, when you have high performance teams in every province, those best players are always selected, right? They're the most talented players. I really wanted the Goodwill Tour to recognize athletes that contributed in other ways.
So not necessarily the best baseball players, but
the best people.
Best people, yep.
The best students, the best volunteers, that play baseball, that play soccer, that are in cheer. And that's what it's done. It's evolved from just being a baseball humanitarian aid project to now complete sport, education, culture. It's everything. It's evolved. And I just let that seed grow and just every team that brings that water to the seed allows that plant to grow. And really with the love of the project, good people have been associated with us to allow us to have that plant grow into a beautiful, beautiful picture. I mean, it's just been, I sometimes sit back, Nick, and it really hits me. I'm just a little country boy from Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. That was a big dreamer. It's hard to understand someone like that sometimes because dreamers think different. They don't do the normal things. And I remember when I was a kid in 1977 when George Lucas launched a movie called Star Wars. And in the very beginning of that movie, there was a character called Luke Skywalker that looked up at the sky and said, "What's my purpose?" And I remember that moment in that movie. And there was a day I was driving in the vehicle for my family's business and our contracted business, and I stopped at 42 Glen Allen Drive at the stop sign, and I looked up at the sky and said, God, what's my purpose? I'm giving everything I have. I'm doing everything that I can to help my community, my family, but what am I here for? 4 months later, I drove by Boca de Camaroca. I'll never forget that. And I just want to show my appreciation to all those teams, all those families, whether you're from Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island with Jason Monahan. Jason's taking teams. Jeff Freeborn out in Alberta. Mike and Heather Street in Medicine Hat. The Friesen family, which is in Altona, Manitoba. Paul Hornibrook and Fredericton, and it just, there's so many to name. Like, I can't even name them all anymore because there's so many. And we've had a team go to the United States from Cuba. Imagine that. A kid from Bridgewater organized a trip, a Cuban baseball team, to go to West Hartford, Connecticut. And it happened. They went from Holguin, Cuba, to Veradero, to Toronto, to Montreal. Nick Foley and myself picked them up in Montreal. We bussed them from Montreal to West Hartford. They got a shower and breakfast, and then we bussed them to Fenway Park. And those kids stood on the field in Fenway Park the following day. You want to talk about a dream?
It's my dream, let alone Cubans just standing on Fenway Park.
And they're standing on the infield, and the Latino players from Tampa Bay and Boston came to the kids and said, how did you guys do this? You're Cuban. You're in the United States. How? How did you? You're in Fenway Park. Like, they were just like in a movie. And like you said, it's our dream.
If you're a Red Sox fan, if you're a Yankees fan, probably not so much, or a Blue Jays fan. Yeah.
But still, Fenway Park has that nostalgic type of feel, like beyond any other field. I'd say probably Yankee Stadium would be the only one. Wrigley Field.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But Wrigley and Fenway are really the only two old parks that are left. And it was an honor. Bill Spaceman Lee, like I said, my ambassador. Louis Tiant, who's Cuban, was there. They were there all week long for the events. We traveled throughout West Hartford and played in different communities, and the family there in West Hartford did an incredible job. All the teams that sponsor these events all do it for the right reasons. They really do. It's because it takes a lot of money. It takes about $20,000 to $24,000 to pull it off. Flights and visas and accommodations and meals, because you're looking after everything. And to watch it was like a movie.
There's that many baseball players in Cuba that are that have gotten this chance?
No, it's not an everyday occurrence. These kids that have gone, like these boys from Holguin, there's a few of them that are now on the professional team in Holguin. And they still talk about that event being the greatest time of their lives. Like, that's the greatest moment of their life. So it's not an everyday occurrence. And there's been no team since them in Holguin that's gone to the United States from a community standpoint. I mean, Team Cuba at the national level, they take national teams places, but not community kids that just, that play community baseball or play for their provincial team. They can tell a story about way back in 2016. They went to Cooperstown. They played in Cooperstown, Nick. I mean, I'm standing in Doubleday Field in Cooperstown going, these kids are playing hallowed ground with the greatest players of all time. They have a tournament every year in Cooperstown with the greatest players, Hall of Fame players.
Yeah.
And these kids played on that field that day. And just to see their expressions, to see it really is so fulfilling to see, Ronaldo Cruz tell the history and walk through Cooperstown and show the Cuban players that are in the Hall of Fame. And they get to see that, physically touch it. It's just not a story.
No.
It's been amazing. And Bill and I have had those travels together. He was here in Bridgewater.
Yep.
And with Louie and Devo, which was crazy. Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, having those guys here.
That's right.
And then we've been to Altona, Manitoba together. We've been to Newfoundland and Pasadena and Corner Brook because they're close to each other. And then we've been to West Hartford together. Bill's taken the travels with me everywhere. And he deserves an incredible amount of respect and gratitude for being the ambassador that he is.
You mentioned how much, I've kind of hinted on around as we've talked here, Dennis, just how much it's evolved, and it's more than just baseball now. Like you say, there's soccer, there's softball. It's kind of tenfold.
Well, my love is for the game of baseball, but other people kept coming to me saying, well, I love this. What would you think if we did this? So Derek and Gail Doucette, Derek and I went to school together. We were best of friends. He won Coach of the Year for Soccer Nova Scotia a couple years back now. He approached me. His daughters are big into soccer, and he said, I'd like to take a team. So I approached Juan Guzman from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Nice.
Juan had no idea. He was like, we don't even have soccer in Dominican. All we know is baseball. And I'm like, that's impossible. Like, that's just impossible. Can't happen. And so he talked to his team leaders, and sure enough, they said, of course, there's community soccer programs, just that our project doesn't have them, but we know where they are. So we organized a complete week, just like our baseball weeks. It was identical. Schedules the same, everything. We brought the girls back to the resort for a day, which was incredible for those kids. We do that every week where the Cuban or Dominican kids come to our resort. Those kids that live there never get through the doors of an all-inclusive resort. It's just impossible. So I've done that. And then another good friend of mine, Jamie Campbell, and his wife, Tina. Tina and Jamie have traveled a lot in their lives. And Tina became an agent. And then their daughter is one of the best cheer competitors in Nova Scotia in her age category. So Jamie said, I'd like to introduce cheer to Cuba, which was monumental because it didn't even exist. It's like starting a sport in a country that, could you imagine? Mm-hmm. It's like we're going to start hockey in this other country.
Jamaican bobsled.
Exactly, a Jamaican bobsled team, right? And it was exactly, what was the name of that movie?
Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings, baby.
Yeah.
John Candy.
John
Candy, man.
Canadian boy again.
Exactly, a Canadian guy. And so we decided to do that, and because Cubans are so fluent as dancers, they dance salsa, merengue, and many others, but salsa is their main dance.
Yeah, but can they do the cha-cha slide?
Oh, they can do. You show them anything, they'll duplicate it in minutes. Michael will tell you that. When we introduced cheer, Don Callahan, who is one of our best supporters in this whole project, he's a friend of Lou Obi's out of Dartmouth Minor Baseball. Don's daughter, Jennifer, she is a national cheer competitor. So we brought her and one of her friends to come kind of be our coaches and oversee this, coaching of the sport. I know nothing about cheer. Put me on a baseball field or in a clinic, I could do that. But for cheer, I had no idea.
No.
Donnie did a great job. He actually drove baseball equipment, a full van full, from Toronto to Dartmouth.
Huh.
I mean, that's the kind of guy you're dealing with, and what kind of reputation he has. And his daughter did an unbelievable job that week. It's a movie in my mind. It's just amazing to see the progress. And so we started to, deal with the community projects in both Versailles, which is just like a rural community of Matanzas. And then we're dealing with Holguin, and now we're dealing with Santo Domingo. Now we're in Puerto Plata. Candace Calicott has come on board. She has a database of people in Puerto Plata that wants help. And I tried to explain to Candace, you can't do this alone. Like, you just cannot take on the enormity of this project by yourself, or you'll be bankrupt. That's just the bottom line. It just takes an enormous amount of economic resources to make it happen. And so you connect the dots is all you do. You're never going to be rich from doing this.
Oh, you'll be rich in what you're doing.
We call it wealthy.
Well, it's, yeah.
Right? Well, you can quantify wealth in different ways. And that's where I go back to Mr. Seagram, where he talked about how much it meant to him to be able to do the work he did after his business life in the work that he was so passionate about. And he said, in a book I read a couple of years ago, it said job, career, purpose. If you can get into the part of your life that you're purpose driven, you don't count the hours, you don't count any of it, because it's where you've always belonged to be. And that's where I am. Michael will tell you, there's when we're on the ground in any of those projects, it's 24/7. Like, we just go straight time. Because once we finish the event that day, we're back at the house or the hotel. We're editing pictures and video. I mean, it's just, the clock just doesn't stop, and we just keep going. We're up early in the morning. We get home late at night. I mean, it's nonstop. And, but I can tell you, it's incredibly rewarding. And the friends, the faces, the people I've met in this journey, it's just wow.
This is almost a final question, but it's not our final question of this podcast for sure. But with this purpose-driven goal that you have in mind, is there an end goal? Like, do you see an end goal here at all with all of this, or?
Well, we want to be ambassadors for our country. I want to teach the youth to open their minds, open their hearts, and be humanitarians for our country. To build relationships. There's a young guy in Halifax. His name is Braden Hirschman. And Braden's probably going to listen to this podcast. Braden teaches me that what we're doing is great, because he went for a couple of years on our project. Well, Braden's 19 years old now. He actually traveled to Matanzas on his own and spent the week with his friends that he has met in the project in Cuba. I mean, does that make so much sense? You know what I mean? Yeah. That came from that seed going by Boca de Camaroca, that those families, those people are connected. There's a book that Angie Haddad gave to me. She's from New Brunswick, and it's called The Celestine Prophecy. And it talks about nothing is a coincidence, and magnetic energy somehow connects itself with each other, and that it's your responsibility to identify it. So you walk by people every day, and your subconscious mind either sees it or you don't. So I'm much more aware of it now than ever before, and try to open myself up, but not too much, because there are other people out there to try to take advantage of you at the same time. The world's not filled with all good people.
No, it's not. No,
no, it's not.
No.
So you try to identify who is and who isn't, and you protect the integrity of your project. We have meetings. We talk about the Goodwill Tour is like a child. Protect it like it's your own child. How would you protect your child? Right, and that's how we really look at it, and we've done that. My team exemplifies it. My team here, my team in both countries, in the Dominican Republic and in Cuba, exemplify integrity. We've taken a lot of pressure on, because you deal with governments, you deal with selfish people, you deal with people that don't have integrity. And I need the best of the best to identify it, so that first glove gets in every little boy or girl's hands. It doesn't go to some government that it never shows up in those kids' hands. I want it that they see us directly affecting them, and we do it genuinely. There's no economic reason why we do it. And it's sometimes hard, Nick. I mean, people say, why do you do it? Like, they have such a hard time comprehending that we would do this, take a vacation, save money, fundraise, collect equipment, put it on a plane, bring it down, and donate it to them. That's how good we are as Canadians. They just can't comprehend that we would do something like that. And that just really identifies what kind of people we are in Canada. I was saying to Nick this morning, Nick Saunders, about when you have the Olympics, we all wear our Canadian stuff, jerseys and hats and
anything red and white.
We're so proud.
That's right.
Well, these kids wear Team Canada jerseys. They wear Team Canada T-shirts and hoodies and hats, and they represent our country. They're the future. 1984-85.
Great year.
Three different groups that I remember. A European group that wrote the song "Do They Know It's Christmas?" And then the Americans did "We Are the World," and then the Canadian group did "Tears Are Not Enough." And we, in the musical world, used those songs as a vehicle to raise money to help towards starvation in Africa. I'm baffled that we still haven't solved that problem. It's 35 years later. I'm blown away that the intelligence that we have on this planet and the resources that we have economically and physically and intellectually, that we haven't solved that problem. And what it's taught me is that it won't be solved. One by one, there'll be little wins along the way. And, what's the guy's name that actually started Live Aid? Michael, can you look up the Boomtown Rats? He's from the Boomtown Rats. Lead singer of Boomtown Rats. Look up. For us, 100% of every donation that we receive go to the kids.
That would be Bob Geldof.
Bob Geldof.
That's right. I just watched Bohemian Rhapsody not that long ago.
Absolutely. Bob Geldof sat with the Prince and Princess Diana, and he was a big "we can" guy.
Yeah. We
can do this. And they did an incredible job. Well, we had to finish the job. And for me, I want, like, the professional team. I don't know if you watched the World Series or not this year.
It's
a little bit here
games,
and there. Yeah. There's a young kid from Cuba that plays for Tampa Bay, right? I talked to Noel Gonzalez, who's the head coach of the Holguin team in the province of Holguin, that I work with a lot, him and his coaches and stuff like that. And all the other coaches, they come to my house down there, as I live there now half of the year at least. That kid broke Derek Jeter's record for most hits in the playoffs.
Oh, the rookie who's still going to be a rookie next year.
Yeah. And he hit the most home runs.
Yeah.
Did you realize he didn't even start on Pinel de Rio's team?
He didn't.
He didn't even start.
He didn't start
on Pinel de Rio's team. That tells you what kind of talent's down in Cuba and how much they're willing to sacrifice to play at the highest level. This kid got on a raft and went from Cuba to Florida in 6-meter waves. 6 meters. So he could play baseball. Now, is that right? I don't get into politics of what happened in the 1960s between the United States and Cuba.
That's right.
It was between John F. Kennedy and Fidel Castro. Neither one of them are alive anymore. Right?
That's right.
Russia was involved at that time. There's a lot of political maneuvering that I have nothing to do with. Baseball has nothing to do with politics. So all I know is stay on the field and work with the kids. Let the rest of the people in the world deal with all the political stuff that goes on. And that's all I wanted to do. So that's where I focus all my time. The work part of it, I hate. The organizational part, like Michael will tell you because he's been with me and he's seen it many times, where we have to organize all the teams. We have to get, rooming lists for everyone, the reservations for on the airlines. We have to do organizational conference calls or Zoom calls with groups. We have to do deposits and final payments and NSFs that we have to go chase all the families that don't have, electronic transfers that come in. And some families do, 12 different transfers because they don't have the money. So they spend a little bit at a time through the 6 to 8 months to do it. We try to give an opportunity for any family, no matter whether you're affluent or not, to be able to go. A single mom in Amherst went in 2015 with us, and her son went, and they were lower income earners. She was a single mom, but they raised every penny for both of them to go and had a life-changing experience. So that's what gets back to who you select.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? I want good kids that will never forget this experience. Guys like Braden Hirschman come to mind. Peter McKay is another one that comes to mind. These kids will be future leaders. And a lot of my guys that I've coached over the years have gone with me. Zach Zink and Keyshawn Such and Garrett Nicholson and Peter Driscoll and Ryan Hardy. I mean, I could go Brad Jones, on and on and on and on, the guys. But the girls get it. Guys, it's just a trip. The motherly instinct in the girls just come out. They connect in a way that I can't explain because I'm not one. And they do an incredible job. It's amazing. You know, kids like Brogan McNeil, she's not even a kid anymore. She's a young lady she's studying multimedia in Ryerson University.
Good school.
Yeah, she's
one of the best
phenomenal
to go to
and a
multimedia.
great ball player.
Yeah.
Just those girls stand out in my mind. Skylar Blanchett, she's one of the best umpires in the whole province. It's just those people just stand out in my mind and will never leave me. And I have to thank the baseball community, the sporting community. We get no funding, Nick. No government funding. Sport Canada, Baseball Canada, Soccer Canada, Cheer Canada, none of them give us a dime. They don't. We've never asked either. But I see so many charitable organizations that aren't so charitable. And I don't want to follow that model. So I've always believed that if I can control it in a way where I know the results are there, then that's the bottom line, is just see the result. And I guess that's why I'm so darn stubborn that I'm there every week. I go every day of every week of every month of every year. I've been on the bus every day. Michael's been there too. We don't miss. We just don't miss because we're responsible for people that trust us to do this. And we just have to be accountable. We have to be there. I always tell people, we make it right, and if something goes wrong, we make it right. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
And how can you make it right if I'm sitting back here in Canada on a phone? You just can't.
Yeah.
Plus, it means a lot to me. I get to see it with my own eyes. Guys like, I want to give a lot of credit to people who have asked us along the way. The Devon Whites and the Juan Guzmans with the Blue Jays, the Vladimir Guerreros and his son Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We're helping them now and their community in Santo Domingo. You just look at David Romero in Matanzas and his mom, Mary Eugenia Romero Garcia, they're giants in their community. And we're there watching what they do hands-on with no money, Nick. They have no money, but they make something out of nothing. And our project leaders always seem to come to the table and bring some money for them. It's not $2 million, but
No.
It helps. And it's just amazing. You look at the team in Holguin with Noel Gonzalez and his son Noel, who plays on the pro team, batting second in the Cuban Baseball League right now. You look at Haiti Garcia, who played on the national women's softball team, and friends like you May, and that have been a part of Mylene, that's been a part of it, that have built lifelong friendships. And, but the one, Gary Robinson, who's an ex-scout in the United States. Gary's been with us. Him and his wife, Kathy, are phenomenal people. But the guy that stands out the most to me is this spaceman. He's just the best. Nobody better. He's as genuine as they come. The spaceman's just a gimmick. He's so well read. Barry Gillis, who's the smartest baseball guy I know, I mean, in regards to history of the game. We did a podcast last week of the greatest Major League Baseball players of all time, and Bill and Barry, I just sat in awe of how intelligent those two guys are in the game of baseball. Bill's just the best of the best, and I'm the oldest in my family, and he's the youngest. So I call him Big Brother, and he calls me Little Brother. You know, yeah. So on the Yvonne Stones in Newfoundland, and there's just so many across the country that have done an incredible job. Tim Brennan, even from West Hartford, they've done some incredible work with us over the years. All the work isn't easy. It's not easy. But
and there's a lot of it.
Well, it's necessary.
Yeah.
If you want to get the result, it's necessary. So
with the Caribbean baseball goodwill tours, how has COVID-19 affected this for the future?
Well, we've got a few teams that didn't go last year that were canceled because they were supposed to go in April. So they're scheduled to go in 2021. I think one of the three teams are going to go. If they can't go in 2021, we're really gearing up to 2022. So what we're trying to accomplish for 2021 is to see if we can get people associated with our affiliate programs online. If people want to make donations like equipment, we're going to do a draw this year called the Ultimate Blue Jays Red Sox Package, which we've done before, which you can get involved with. You can buy them online. And the winner that we draw will get tickets to 2 games in Boston or Toronto of your choice, airfare and hotel for the weekend. It's like a weekend package.
Yeah, weekend package. Yeah.
Right? And we'll sell tickets for that for 2021 to be able to accomplish a couple things. Take a container down to the Caribbean full of donations. And those people who give the physical donations, whether it's sporting equipment, school supplies, whatever the case may be, we'll load that container up and send it down probably in September of 2021 when the weather's, even July when the hurricane season doesn't start.
Yeah.
And we can get it down there. And that goes to, a port. And then our team goes and picks that up, and we get a huge truck that picks it up, and then we'll distribute it through the whole project. So we got to find a way, because without our support, I was there for 8 months. And I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. You think it's rough in Canada in COVID? You've seen nothing.
I don't consider this rough at all. COVID in Nova Scotia, I got to wear a mask when I got to go somewhere. Not a big deal.
We talked about that in our last podcast. It's just, we're very fortunate to where we live, that we can live the way we live with very few restrictions. And all we have to do is wear a mask.
And still people bitch about it.
I know.
It's
crazy.
Give me a break. Calm down.
I know.
It's going to be
Don't
okay.
get so stressed out.
Put a smile on. Hey.
Man, I'm telling you. But it's, along the way, you learn a lot of lessons, life lessons, that you don't get from a regular job. I often think about what leaders have gone through. And I certainly do not even consider myself in the same category. But the Martin Luther Kings and the Nelson Mandelas of the world, the Christopher Columbuses of the world, that did something that an average person wouldn't do, made sacrifices that the average person wouldn't sacrifice. And the result they got from it, and that they were remembered for it. And my mother asked me that, why are you doing all this? And I said, I want to be remembered for something that meant something. I've been fortunate, and because you've helped us out and tracked, what we've done and what we've accomplished as a baseball organization here in this very small town.
Mm-hmm.
10 years in a row at the highest level, winning year after year provincial championships at a AAA level, and gone on to nationals. And I've been fortunate to coach nationals teams for 5 years in a row. And it's just been a great story, a great journey, but it just led me in this direction. And for me, helping is 2 things I love. I love baseball, beside my family. I love baseball and kids. Right?
Got to throw the family.
Yeah, the family is the beginning.
Family should be mentioned.
Yeah. But besides that, it's outside of the family. It's baseball and kids. Where I live in Holguin, there's kids on the street that had nothing. So when I moved there in October of 2019, my team announced that I'd be living there. And what an unbelievable difference. Now, excuse me, for the general public, they were kind of nervous. They were inquisitive, But when I saw the kids, it was wide open. Let's go. So the first thing I did is I had 8 gloves in my house. None of them are mine. They're theirs. Balls, bats, bow nets, batting tees, gloves. Stuff for them to practice every day. Having, Noelis Gonzalez and his son Noel and players and myself and other people that have played the sport on the street teaching the kids how to play. The movie The Bad News Bears, that's my kids. They're not the best players in the province. I'm used to coaching high performance, the best athletes in the province. These kids are the Bad News Bears. I could make a movie with them. Diego and the whole group. And they go from 7 years of age to about 12, 13.
So you're Billy Bob Thornton right now.
Yeah. And it's butter, or it could be Buttermaker too, which is the first one, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, but I'm the parents really appreciate it, and it shows. They show their appreciation all the time. They share their appreciation and love for what I'm doing with their kids, and I'm not asking anything for it. I'm giving. I'm going to take a basketball net and put it up on the telephone pole down there, and let the kids shoot hoops. And I'm putting an LED light on my house that will shine onto the whole street so they can play at night, right? Soccer balls, so they can kick soccer balls in the street. And the only thing is that the people that drive transportation down there, like the scooters and stuff like that, they don't like me very much because the kids are playing all the time. So it's almost like, get out of the way. But very cool is I've taught them the one thing that we do in ball hockey on the street. What do we do? When a car comes, what do we say?
Oh.
Car.
Yeah.
So in Spanish, it's caro, right?
Yeah.
So it's caro. And we move to the side of the street. The vehicles go down and we right back out again. So
is there like a Wayne's World theme to that too? It's like game on. I don't know if game on.
Yeah.
Caro. Game on.
But it's been, it's been an incredible experience, and it has. I mean, we've had a lot, and in future podcasts, I want to tell some of the other stories. Tonight, I just want to show my appreciation for so many and kind of explain to them how we do this. Like, how do we organize it? And why do we organize it? And where do the things go? Like people ask me, well, how do you get all the gear there? And I'm like, well, the teams bring it. That's part of their responsibility. Part of their experience in the project is to physically ship this gear with them. I arrange it with the airlines. We negotiate with them. We tell them why we're doing this, and we want their support. We're not just going to go lay in a beach or a pool and drink a bunch of pina coladas for the week. We're going to get our hands dirty and help some people out in another country. And as Canadians, all the teams that go wear their jerseys on the plane. So you imagine you're a tourist, right?
Yeah.
You're going on vacation for a week, and all of a sudden you see this group of 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 people. Sometimes, like out of the Dartmouth organization, with Lou Obie and his whole group, they've had 100, 125 people on a plane.
Ooh.
Over half the plane was the Goodwill Tour. And to see those jerseys and hats of all those kids, those tourists are really proud of those kids because we all wear the same jersey.
Yeah.
Team Canada. So the story needs to be told more. And I think when that story gets told, there'll be even more teams that want to do this. In Matanzas alone, we've been to so many communities, and Michael can tell you, it's like, it's Guanabana and Agramonte and Trumvidado and Versailles and Marti, and I mean, just on and on and on and on. We've been everywhere, in every part of the province. Like sometimes we take a road trip for 2 hours to go somewhere. The Newfoundland girls baseball team, I remember the day, Devo was there. We arrived, they shut the whole town down. There was 1,000 people watching this girls' baseball team play.
Ooh.
Now, imagine being a girls' baseball team from Newfoundland, where when you go play, it's just your parents sitting in the bleachers. And all of a sudden, opening day on the Goodwill Tour, there's 1,000 people there to watch you.
Yeah, we're not in Twillingate anymore, or Paradise, or wherever they're. Yeah.
A boys' baseball team from Manitoba. they went and played in a pasture, cow pasture, where literally cows were crossing, goats were crossing in this big pasture.
Can't make that up.
No, I mean, we have video, photos of it all. Michael will tell you. And that day, those kids faced Bill Lee. Bill Lee pitched to them. Imagine being a kid, 13 years old, 12 years old, and say, I went to Cuba and I faced a Boston Red Sox Hall of Famer. He pitched. Bill Lee, the spaceman.
Still got the heat?
Well, Bill can hit a glove. We went to, that's a great story. Kerwin Friesen called me up on the phone and said, Dennis, we were having an alumni game that week when you guys come out to Altona, Manitoba. We like Bill to pitch to one hitter. Like, he's 70 years old. Do you think Bill could pitch to one hitter? And I said, do you want me to tell him that? Like, you know how insulting that is to him? He just last year was the oldest professional player in professional baseball, not Major League Baseball, but professional baseball, to hit a base hit. He's still playing. He plays in the 60 and over league, the 50 and over league, and the 40 and over league in Florida.
Yeah.
So I called Bill up. I said, big brother, Kerwin's asking us when we go to Manitoba, could you pitch to one hitter? And he said, you tell him that when I get there, I'm going to pitch 4 innings, top and bottom. Now, for me, it was probably one of the most fulfilling moments of my life as a player because I get to catch the first inning.
Yeah.
He asked if I would catch for him. And I can tell you, Nick, he has 5 pitches. If I put the glove there, it's right there. I don't move it a millimeter. I call the pitch, put my glove where I want it, and he hits it.
Say, did you call the pitch? Like, were you?
I called the pitch. He never shook me off.
Oh, that's another thing he didn't.
Never shook me off. And hit the glove every time. Even the Ephus pitch, which he's infamous for. It was an amazing experience to see somebody that was 70 years old, and he shut them out.
Does it say any Ks?
Oh, yeah. Shut him. Bill's always a pitch-to-contact guy. Always. Even in the pros. He said I could throw that sinker down, and I knew it would be a ground ball to the second baseman. He was the intellectual being that he is. He understands the game at such a high level, and he was never a velocity guy. He was just he hurt his arm. He went to USC in college, and Jim Fanning was one of the scouts that scouted him, who actually became his manager in Montreal in '81. Bill was one of those guys that he was the player rep on almost every team that he was on and fought for the players so bad that he was hated by the management. Major League Baseball didn't like Bill Lee because he didn't play by their rules. And he protected a lot of players when no one else would. And like even his last year with the Expos, he led the team in batting average and ERA, which is kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy.
He's a pitcher.
Yeah.
Right? And I was in Montreal when the Blue Jays and the Pirates played the last 2 spring training games a few years back, if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And we were in the Caribbean, Bill and I, and we were in Holguin, and he didn't tell me that he was going to be there, and I didn't tell him I was going to be there. I never even thought to even talk to him about
So
it.
big brother and little brother show up. Yeah.
So I'm here, and they're announcing all the Expos Hall of Famers, like it just, and it was Tim Raines' night because Tim Raines was going in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like I hear, Warren Cromartie and, Woody Fryman. And then they said, Bill Spaceman Lee. And the place went crazy. And I looked at the boys. And I said, that's my big brother, And he was the only guy that ran on the field.
Oh, yeah?
He ran on the field. So I had to talk to the security guard because I knew Bill would be pissed at me if I didn't tell him I was there. And, of course, my voice can carry a little bit, so we were standing there, and when all the introductions were over, I kind of belted out, Bill, right? And he looked around, where'd that come from? And then I yelled, Bill again, and looked around, and I said, 6 o'clock. So he turned around, 6 o'clock, and there I was. He went, this is the kind of guy he is. He runs under the tunnel, runs up into the stands to see me, and all the Expos fans are going crazy because the spaceman is in the the building
Yeah.
with them. And I said to Bill, don't worry about me. These guys want your attention and they deserve it
Yeah.
because they love you and they love the Expos. I see you all the time. I just saw you a couple of weeks ago, you know. Amazing human being. Him and his wife, Diana, are just, they're amazing. They really are. He lives in Vermont, which is just very close to the Quebec border. You know, he says she's Canadian from Alberta, and he says, like, if I could just get to the border right now and this COVID-19 and get out of this country, it would be great. But he's fantastic, and I've been blessed. I really have been. I kind of sit back and think I'm just this little country boy from Bridgewater. But that's where everyone starts. A lot of people start just being a person.
Eastern Passage, Nova Scotia.
Absolutely,
Where?
right.
Where?
Where's that?
What'd you say?
So I want to encourage people that don't think you can't do something. And John Swain, who you know, we were sitting here talking today earlier about the journey. You know, and sometimes your journey is you're going up this mountain, and it's tough. And some part of the mountains is just, hey, you're making progress. It seems like things are going really good. And all of a sudden, there's a couple of storms that come.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's life. Yeah.
It is. And you go up that mountain, and you get to the top, and you think, I made it. Like, I've made it. And you look out, and what's next?
A 2-sinker fast.
Another mountain. Just another mountain.
Just another mountain. No big deal.
You know, you got to start at the bottom again and work your way up another mountain. And you have to embrace the journey. You really do. I don't know if there ever is a destination. I just don't. I don't think. It's the relationships that you build along the way. It's the people that make you who you are. It really is those seeds that get planted in you that if you can look at yourself and say, I'm a lucky person to have this type of opportunity in my life. And I go back to sitting at 42 Glen Allen in that van that day, and I ask God, like, what's my purpose? I know what it is now. There's no question. 100%. I know where I need to be. I've made some big changes in my life. I made some huge sacrifices that most average people would never do.
Yeah, just up and move to Cuba for 8 months a year.
They'd never do it.
Let's do it.
They'd never do it.
Yeah.
And I just basically said, you know, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I've got to do this, and I've got to be hands-on. And the kids, like, nothing cooler. I started to think and say, well, Dennis, you're 50. What if you're 65 years old? And some of those kids that you've worked with over the years do play at the highest level. And you were part of it. What feeling would you have of being part of that? It was something that was very important to me. And I want to be remembered for being part of the solution and not part of the problem. We have a lot of people that tend to be a part of the problem. And if I can find a way to be part of the solution, I'll do so. Is it easy for me, or has it been easy for Michael or Glenda or anyone in my family or anybody that's part of my baseball family? No. But it's necessary. The alternative is that I just don't do it. And I just can't see that happening. I just can't see it. I can't see myself just turning a blind eye past Boca de Camaroca that day and just saying, I just want to go drink some beers and pina coladas for the week. I've got about 15 Cuban jerseys, you know, Gurriel's jersey. I've got it, you know, in the house in Cuba with all the teams. And I love the game. I just, similar to, because I know how much you love darts.
Oh,
right?
that's so long. I used to
Hockey,
love hockey. Would be
hockey. You know, it's hard to quantify how much I love the game. I'm fortunate where I live that a lot of the professional coaches in Cuba come to my home when they travel through the community. They come to see me because I'm told, they're told that I'm one of those guys that loves the game. And I want to try to help. I just don't want to help one team. I want to help the league. There's a guy, his name is Bill Ryan. Bill actually started making wooden bats for the Cuban Baseball League. Cuba can is what it's called. And he makes those bats and he gives them to the league called INDER, the organization like Sport Canada.
Mm-hmm.
He gives them to INDER, and then INDER distributes those bats throughout the whole country to all the 16 pro teams in Cuba. And Bill has done a great job. Reg and Ruth Grieve, I can't go without mentioning them. Reg and Ruth, we were walking down the street. They were walking down the street in Veradero on the main strip. And they're from Saskatchewan. And they were already for a couple of years bringing stuff down for kids. And they saw our big Goodwill Tour logo on the house that we were renting for that time. And they saw the logo and came to us and said, what are you guys all about? And Devo was there, and we introduced them to Devo. Reg and Ruth has done a phenomenal job in Saskatchewan. They are true ambassadors. They're both retired, but they dig every year in their province to try to be part of the solution. And they work with me all the time to connect the dots, Gay Shepherd is another one that comes to mind, who's a good friend of Yosel Vasquez. I met Gay through Yosel, and Gay and her daughter came to Manitoba when the team came. They always donate. They always do something to help. Those people along the way, they're hard to forget. They're just hard to forget. And I'm fortunate enough to be the person that always seems to be the center of that. And that comes with great responsibility, though. And I'll take it on. Somebody has to.
Somebody has to. That's right.
So it's the Caribbean Goodwill Tours represents a lot of good people. And I want to share my appreciation with them on this podcast to say thank you, oh Canada, for taking us to here. But there's a lot left to do. It's 11 million people in Cuba. They live a very simplistic life, and one of the greatest releases for them is sport. We just got to keep doing our little part. But you're never forgotten. You're in the memory books. You're in the videos and the movies that we create that shows what we've accomplished. And 25, 30 years from now, when all those young kids are all parents, not all of them, not all of them are going to have kids, but they'll be able to show their kids and say, and their grandkids, we did that way back when. And that's pretty cool. I want to thank all the associations and all the companies and all the individuals that are out there that have supported our Goodwill Tours. And I just encourage you to keep watching what we do and stay engaged. If you can donate, really try to find the affiliate programs so that you can buy something, get some value for it. But there are people that just send us money, and when they do, I went to Jody O'Donnell, who owns Canadian Tire. We bought 44 baseball bats in one day from people who donated money electronically online. And that's pretty cool. 50 pounds worth of little aluminum bats. That's just one bag of hundreds. So yeah, the story's far from over. I'm probably on the second mountain. I would say probably in 2017, I hit the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting that second mountain. I'm about a quarter of the way up.
Kilimanjaro is right behind it, though.
Man, I'm telling you.
I'm just letting you know. It's there, yeah.
And then this guy behind me, who's, the editor of what we do here on the Goodwill, or the podcasts, the weekly Woodcasts. Michael's that behind-the-scenes guy that a lot of people don't get to see. Just do the work that's necessary, and it's not always easy to work with your father.
No,
it's not.
Sometimes the father's not the boss.
Yeah, but I can tell you, it's been rewarding, and it's created a relationship for us because there's a lot of relatability there. He can relate to me because he's seen it, right? So I'm looking forward to this next mountain. And hopefully, before I get too old, I can climb a few more mountains beyond the second one. Be nice to have the physical ability to hit the third or fourth. And we're helping both the country of Cuba and the Dominican Republic on an annual basis. When COVID's over, we're ready. We'll be ready before it's even over. So I appreciate you being here tonight because I'm usually the interviewer.
Yeah. I'm usually the host. So this isn't a foreign seat for me.
It's
That's
not
what
for
I know.
you. It's not. And you've been there since the beginning, Nick.
Yeah.
It's why I really thought of you, because you have followed it and you have an understanding of what we do, and you've seen all that stuff. And you were even there on the night when the Cuban team played here in Bridgewater. And there's still a video online that I show people all the time that you took.
It's funny you mentioned Keyshawn's name earlier. I was like, oh, he's Hansport boy, wasn't he?
Yeah. What
Big
a ball
boy.
player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight recently. Good kid. He's a good young man.
Good
He was
young
a good
man
kid
now.
then.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to have great relationships with my players.
Yeah. Just the size of him, I remember. It's just
and speed.
How old is he?
Yeah,
Holy.
speed. And, we had some big guys.
Yeah.
Big guys, but good players. And we held a high standard. We still do. To this day, we hold each other accountable at a high standard. And we do that down there too. And I'm doing video work with the players, and I'm having a lot of fun down there. I mean, it's cold here in the winter. And I don't play hockey anymore. And my brother, Sean, he's the hockey coach.
Yes, he is.
Right?
Yeah.
A good one.
Yeah.
I'm the baseball guy. And if I can actually be involved with baseball 12 months a year, that's just the blessing of all blessings.
There's your purpose.
Yeah.
Right there.
So thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Nick.
Weekly Woodcast.
All right, so you've had the opportunity to hear from my voice tonight on what we do behind the scenes beyond the weekly Woodcast. And I do want to thank Nick Yorston for being here tonight and being part of the journey so far. And I look forward to making more announcements along the way of what we do, and thanking everyone for participating and helping us along the way on that path and the journey. Second mountain, third to come. And if there's any way you can certainly help us, reach out to us on CaribbeanBaseballGoodwillTours.com or join us on our information group on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.